via social media. You can help us kick things off by introducing yourself in the chat. Tell us your name, where you're from, and what you are fighting for, whether it's higher wages, better health care. Let us know. And if you're watching on social media, you can like and share this video and help us spread the progressive message. Brothers and sisters, we have an all-star lineup for you tonight. And this lineup illustrates how our revolution members are organizing both inside the halls of power and outside on the streets to win transformative change. Tonight, we have United States Representative Pramila Jayapal, who's going to talk to us about how the president can use the power of the pen to advance our progressive priorities. Representative Jayapal is the chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and a partner in our struggle. We're also going to be joined by Jane Klebb. She's an Our Revolution National Board member and the chair of the Democratic Party of Nebraska. She's going to give us a report back on the recent fight at the DNC to ban dark money and the state of progressive organizing within the Democratic Party structure. We're going to hear from Alicia Saunier. She is a candidate for the 7th Ward aldermanic position in St. Louis. She is part of a powerhouse slate that our revolution is behind in St. Louis. And we're going to learn more about that slate tonight. And last but not least, we're going to hear from Alida Fisher, a member of the school board in San Francisco. She's a commissioner, education commissioner in San Francisco, and she's going to join us. She's on the front lines of the culture wars, standing up for students. We're going to hear from Alida and Jess Wynn, who is part of the newest Our Revolution group, the San Francisco Education Alliance. This is going to be an amazing call. Stay on. And before I do that, I want to give it over to the wonderful Amanda Nichols from our team.
Thank you very much, Joseph. Right now, we have hundreds of folks joining in the Zoom, and we've got 1,000 more tuning in online. I just want to thank you all for being here with us and being part of Our Revolution. We've got an amazing group of activists joining from all over the country. In the Zoom right now, I'm seeing folks like Diane in Denver, Patricia from Victorville, California. We've got Carol in Taos, New Mexico, folks from Boulder, Barnegat, New Jersey, not too far from where I'm located right now, saying hello to Marianne Clemente. Meredith in Colorado, hello. Elaine from Western Massachusetts. We love seeing all the folks tune in, telling us why you're here, what you're fighting for, and being part of the action. So as we all know, Bernie started Our Revolution in 2016 to mobilize ordinary Americans through an inside-outside strategy for change. Now we're the country's largest grassroots funded progressive political group, and we're carrying out Bernie's vision through a 4-point plan to win. We're organizing the grassroots. We're going to elect more progressive champions. We're transforming the Democratic Party, and it's all so that we can fight for progressive issues. The work that we're going to be talking about tonight with Pramila, with Jane, all of our local leaders, it's only possible because we have members who contribute their time, their treasure. You guys volunteer and you donate and you support Our Revolution. To become a member, go to the link that we're dropping in the chat right now. It really helps out. Joseph, back to you.
Thanks, Amanda. Before we bring up tonight's guest, I want to take a moment to reflect on where we are and where we have to go in terms of our progressive movement. At the State of the Union last week, we heard President Biden call for the enactment of a bold progressive agenda. He talked about taxing the rich. He talked about busting up monopolies. He talked about taking on big pharma. He talked about growing unions. That was music to my ears. And make no mistake, if not for our movement's collective work, we would not have heard such a progressive platform articulated from the presidential podium. But let's get real. Look, it's great that Joe Biden is talking the talk, but we know that we need him to walk the walk. And when I say that, the president talked about passing legislation. He called on Congress to pass legislation on progressive priorities. But that said, we all know that Speaker McCarthy is going to do everything in his power to block legislation from moving forward. So how does the president go beyond the rhetoric in this next 2 years in order to take concrete action? Brothers and sisters, the answer is simple. He's got to lean into using his executive authority to make sure that we win on our progressive priorities. And look, as I told Politico this week, the president missed an opportunity to up the ante on House Republicans. He said, here's my agenda. He could have also said, if you don't work with me to pass it, I have the power to go it alone. You're either with me or you're against me. Brothers and sisters, we're going to hear more about our progressive priorities for federal executive action in a moment in our conversation with Representative Jayapal. But before that, I want to give you a sense of our work at the state and local level. Amanda, over to you.
Thanks again, Joseph. So as everyone knows, today is 2/13, February the 13th. But what else is 2/13? Sadly, it's the federal minimum wage for tipped workers, $2.13, and we're not going to stand for it anymore. We're going to fight state by state across the country to raise wages and eliminate the sub-minimum wage. Our activists and organizers have already started. They're doing work in New York, Maryland, Illinois, and we're going on to other states. We're rallying, we're lobbying lawmakers to pass legislation. And we're also taking on the National Restaurant Association, a slimy cohort of the top restaurants in the country who were exposed for using $25 million in workers' own money to lobby politicians to keep wages low. So we're rallying against that. And also this week, Senators Bernie Sanders, Jeff Merkley, Elizabeth Warren, and others stood up to speak out against the NRA. And we're also working to get elected officials to reject dirty NRA money that they're taking from workers. When we told new House Speaker Hakeem Jeffries where the money was coming from, he returned it, and we're working to get other lawmakers to do the same. Real quick, we've got some Valentine's Day events happening tomorrow. If you're in or near Baltimore, New York City, Lansing, Michigan, or Chicago, if you love workers and you love food, join us tomorrow and show some love to restaurant workers and organize around our campaign to raise the wage state by state. The links for those 4 events are being dropped in the chat right now. If you're just interested in the work generally to raise the wage, we have a Raise the Wage team. So that link will also be dropped in the chat. Please sign up for that and help us out with all this good work. That's all I've got for right now. I appreciate it. And back to you, Joseph. Take it away.
Thanks, Amanda. Let's get going. Not only do we have a Raise the Wage team that's fighting to raise wages all around the country, we also have an executive action team or a federal action team. And we just did a survey, and what our members told us was this: the top issues that they want to see action on over the next 2 years is our climate, economic and tax fairness, lowering healthcare costs, expanding worker power. That's what we want to see on the federal level. And we know it's going to take an inside-outside strategy to make these agenda items a reality. And with that, I want to introduce Representative Pramila Jayapal, a friend and ally of our revolution, to our call tonight. Representative, welcome.
Thank you so much, Joseph, and hello, everybody. It is so great to be with you virtually and to see all of these people that are ready to take action to make our country more fair, more just, more equitable. And Our Revolution is such a big part of that. So much so that actually we just had Our Revolution board chair, Larry Cohen, come and speak to our entire staff team, both the CPC and my personal office staff, because we're strategizing together. And I think that's what I've really loved about our partnership. It's been a real strategy to build the progressive movement inside Congress and outside, to elect more progressive members across the country. And in fact, we did that. 16 of our 18 endorsed candidates at the Progressive Caucus PAC, I think all of them endorsed by Our Revolution as well. So much shared work that we did on the ground to get them into Congress. The most diverse class, and also organizers, people who have been organizing at the local level in Texas and Illinois, across the country, because the whole theory of change here is that we need to build our movement on the outside. We need to build our movement on the inside. So great to see local and state officials on this call as well. Of course, Democratic Party chairs in states like Jane is doing amazing work for us. And so I think that is really important to keep in mind. We are building a different kind of infrastructure, Joseph. And I think that it doesn't always happen immediately, but it is happening, and we're seeing the change. We're seeing it even in terms of the power of the Progressive Caucus. And I'll tell you something, just a funny little anecdote about State of the Union. It was at the end of State of the Union, and I happened to be talking to Bernie, my good friend Bernie, and from across the chamber, I hear Jamal Bowman, the wonderful Jamal Bowman, who's on the executive board of the Progressive Caucus as well, yell across the chamber to Bernie and say, "Hey, Bernie, did you write that speech?" And we all laughed because in a way, Bernie did. In a way, you did, every one of you that are on this call, because the priorities, the progressive priorities that this president outlined and the things that we have fought for and won. You know, we're not very good in this movement about celebrating victories, but let me just say, we had hella victories, and we got to just spend a couple minutes on the fact that we have totally busted open the idea that you should have any unemployment in the country, that we can take on a full employment system even as we bring down wages, that we can have government intervene on industrial policy to bring union jobs back to the United States of America by incentivizing things like, oh, how about clean energy jobs? Right? As we make this transition and take on climate change, the biggest investment we have made yet on climate change. And we are going to get to that incredible promise of a clean energy future because of those investments. But not only that, when we're talking about infrastructure, we have never before talked about environmental justice, about Justice 40% of investments that are prioritized to frontline communities. This is a complete transformation of how we think about government's role in actually helping people to survive. Those survival checks, the child tax credit, makes clear some of the lies that have been told in the past that poverty is somehow because people aren't smart enough or good enough. No, poverty is a policy choice. It is a bad policy choice, but if we make different choices like a child tax credit, like survival checks, we can actually cut child poverty in half. And that's some of what you have shown. And so I just want you to like hug yourselves, give high fives, virtual high fives, not because the job is done, not at all, but because the progress we've made is significant. So when we talk now about what's next, there are really, in my mind, there are sort of three things we need to focus on. The first is we need to take as much action legislatively, going to be very difficult, but we're not giving up. There are things like antitrust work that we might be able to do on a bipartisan basis that we need to continue to pursue. Anything else that we can do that is about worker power, we will pursue. So we're not giving up on legislation, but also on executive action, to Joseph's point, we will be releasing probably in the next couple of weeks a Progressive Caucus executive action agenda. We had a lot of success with our last executive action agenda over the last 2 years. We got a lot of things ticked off, but there are still some really important places where the White House can use the power of the pen and can actually make a difference. And I'll just mention a couple because they match your criteria that you had on there, Joseph, in terms of what people wanted to see. So first of all, we can raise the overtime threshold, and it will help 30 million workers get paid for the work that they do. They're not getting a raise. They're actually getting paid for hours that they're already working, but they're being taken advantage of by greedy employers who don't want to pay people for that overtime. So by raising the overtime threshold, depending on how far we can raise it, we could help up to 30 million workers be paid for the work that they do. That's a big frigging deal. Secondly, we know that one of the big areas that we believe the administration will crack down on is on big pharma's greed and lowering the price of prescription drugs through action that the Department of Health and Human Services can take. So that is a really important piece to continue the work. We did not get as far as we wanted on prescription drug pricing, but we did get our foot in the door in terms of, for the first time ever, which is so crazy, allowing Medicare to negotiate the price of certain prescription drugs. There is more that can be done through executive action. By the way, we also capped the cost of insulin at $35 for seniors who are on Medicare. That should be capped across the board. It can't be done legislatively, but I really believe that we should put that up as a bill and force the Republicans to decide whether or not they're going to block everyone from getting insulin capped at $35. That is, in my mind, kind of a no-brainer, but we're going to keep fighting for that. Third, we are going to push the administration to finalize really aggressive rules to clean up the energy sector and achieve 80% clean electricity by 2030. This spring, the EPA will come out with their clean power rules. There is a lot that the administration can do to make sure that we are really incentivizing with these strong, aggressive rules, incentivizing compliance and enforcement to make sure that we get to that. So that's the third piece. And then the fourth piece is also around continuing to support higher wages for the care sector. This is a sector that got left out of a lot of the work that we had put in to Build Back Better. That would have, as you know, included a significant investment in the care sector. It would have included universal childcare, universal pre-K, $150 billion in investment in the housing sector. These are all the things that are still unfinished, but there are some executive actions that can be taken around the care economy, around housing, and we will continue to pursue those. And so you will see those on our executive action list. There's many more that will come out and we'll unveil them, but those are 4 areas that I think we should be able to see some significant success if we strategize together and continue to push the president and the administration to make these things. By the way, we do have some initial commitments from the administration. I really do believe that they want to make these things happen, but sometimes it just takes a little bit of help from your friends to make sure that they do happen. So that is a big part. And then kind of the final piece, I mentioned legislation, I mentioned executive action. The final piece is, let's use these 2 years to prepare for our next big takeover of Congress, because we do know that this movement, you all have already made a difference. Look, a year ago, there weren't even 48 senators who were willing to overturn the filibuster, the Jim Crow filibuster that prevents us from passing a $15 minimum wage, that prevents us from passing the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, that prevents us from passing the For the People Act to get big money out of politics. If we can get rid of the filibuster or even carve it out, we can codify abortion rights. Not just codify Roe, by the way, but codify abortion rights, pass the PRO Act, pass the Raise the Wage Act. These are all the things we can do if we're willing, if we have 51 senators or 50 senators plus the vice president to be able to get rid of that specific institutionalized barrier, racist barrier to any progress. And so let's start to plan now about the implementation that we're going to see across the country of many of these bills. Let's make sure they're done right. And let's talk to people about how much of a difference they made in getting this stuff done so we can take back a bigger majority in the Senate, take back the House, and keep the White House, and keep the pressure for change. Power does not concede anything without a demand, as we know from the great Frederick Douglass. And so we have to be continuing to demand, and we've got to be continuing to organize, and we have to be not only an opposition party, which, let me tell you, I'm on the Judiciary Committee. I will be an opposition party. I know how to do that. By the way, I've been in the minority for most of my life, actually, so I understand what it means to stand up for our rights, but we can't just be an opposition party. We also have to be a proposition party, and we have to give people a vision of what we're working towards and how we get not only everything we can get right now, but also do the organizing to elect more progressives so that we can get the next big pieces of the president's agenda, of our progressive agenda, done. And so I'm really committed to making sure that every place matters, every person matters, and you all from around the country, in every state, in every place, the work you are doing on the ground is what actually allows us to think about what the next phase is. So we got a lot of work to do now, Joseph. Our Revolution members, you are an inspiration because you're doing that work on the ground. So we will continue to push. The Progressive Caucus is now, I think we're actually 101 or 102 members plus Bernie. We have passed our rules reforms. People, if they don't sign on to, a certain amount of legislation, if they don't kind of work with our vision, then they don't get to be members of the Progressive Caucus. And yet we are still, because of the movement on the ground and because of the vision that we have and the agenda that we have, we continue to add amazing new members. So I want to thank you all for that. I want to celebrate a little bit with what you've accomplished, because we just don't do it. We always go to the next thing that we're pushing for. And it's good. We need to do that. But we also need you to know how powerful you are in achieving what you achieve. So when somebody asks you who wrote the president's speech, you can proudly say, you wrote it. You can say, raise your hand and say, I wrote it, because it's our movement that created that agenda that helped elect him into office. And it is our movement, our revolution, that's going to continue to push for that ultimate justice that we all seek. So thank you so much for that work. We're going to be asking you to organize. So, get ready for that. We're going to be working in coalition with our Revolution and the Progressive Caucus and all our progressive allied partners. And we're going to do that work, organizing on the ground, building our movement together. Thanks so much.
Representative Jayapal, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. We have a federal action team that people from all across the country have been signing up. I want to encourage everyone to look at the link and sign up, because we're going to be getting marching orders from the CPC in a few weeks about what we should be mobilizing around on the outside as Pramila and the CPC fight on the inside. And Pramila, what are some of the things, just for our members to hear, what are some of the things that you think would be the most effective that grassroots activists can do to help move an executive action agenda?
Well, when we roll it out, we're going to want to show tremendous support across the country. And we're going to want to feel, have the White House and all of our leadership, everyone in Congress, feel the energy coming from the ground. And so that will be phone calls, other things. I also want to say that a lot of the legislation that we introduce will get more and more, some of it mirrors the things that we're asking for in the executive action agenda. Some of it mirrors what we want to get done legislatively in the next round, but it really helps us to build the overall vision of what we're fighting for if we have strong co-sponsorship on those pieces of legislation. So it'll be both the executive action agenda and the legislative action. Also, I think we'll want to have stories, how do these things affect people? And so that's something that we're always looking for. We did a whole hour. We have an hour, Joseph, I don't know if everyone knows this, on the floor every week that we're in session. That is the CPC's, is called a special order hour. It's just a legislative term, but we get to talk about anything we want. One week we used our hour to read stories from the Poor People's Campaign, so that we could center the voices of people on the ground. What does it mean to have, to crack down on prescription, on big pharma and have negotiated prescription drug prices? So you could imagine that we could do a special order hour on every piece of our executive action agenda. And if we had real stories from people, we can center those. And then you all can take those clips from C-SPAN, from our Twitter accounts, social media accounts, and you can push them out. That also increases pressure to have that executive action, followed through on. So those are all ways, but you're right, we'll be coming back to you. It's part of the reason I want you to celebrate now, because I'm going to put you to work. We're going to put you to work. And so we want you to feel really good about everything you've done so that you're ready to get back to work and make this executive action real.
Again, Pramila Jayapal, chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We're going to be fighting for federal action, and I want to invite all of our members to sign up to be a part of the team. And as Pramila said, one thing that we want to do, if you care about pharma and you have a story about getting screwed by pharma, we want to hear it.
That's right.
If you have been denied overtime or think you should be getting it, we want to hear that story because we can put it in motion to propel our movement forward, in addition to all of the other organizing that we're going to do. So please sign up to get involved. And Comrade Chairman, we are with you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night. Bye.
And with that, I want to bring up Jane Klepp. She is a national board member of Our Revolution and also chair of the Nebraska Democratic Party. She's been leading our work in coalition with others to transform the Democratic Party, to modernize the Democratic Party, and to make sure that it aligns with our progressive values. I want to point out just one similarity between what Pramila is talking about and what Jane and Larry Cohen and others are doing. We're trying to build power, and that happens through vote by vote, block by block. We've built a block of over 100 CPC members in Congress who, because they are that sizable, have influence in the Democratic Party, in the agenda of Congress, in the agenda of the president himself. That's what we're trying to do in the Democratic National Committee, is build power, vote by vote. And the leader of that effort is Jane. Jane, tell us a little bit about the most recent DNC meeting you were at. There was a fight around dark money, but more importantly about what the progressive movement has been building and what we're gearing up for.
Thanks, Joseph. And thanks to all the Our Revolution members that are here with us tonight. It's so good to listen to Representative Jayapal and all the victories and work and power building that they're doing in Congress. And we need to do that, obviously, at the local grassroots level, as well as in our county, state parties, and the DNC. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been up to. At the last DNC meeting, the good news was that they announced a calendar that does put more communities of color right up front. So I'm sure you all saw the calendar in the news. It's South Carolina first, New Hampshire, Nevada go together. 2nd, and then they're off to Georgia and then to Michigan. So lots of good news on that front, making sure that the base of the Democratic Party is well represented in our early nominating states. That's the calendar for 2024. We're quite certain, as a state chair who knows a lot of other state chairs and vice chairs and DNC members, that may or may not be the calendar for 2028, but that's for a discussion and a battle down the road. Some of the bad news that happened at the DNC meeting is, for the 3rd time, we tried to get a dark money resolution ban passed through the DNC's resolutions committee. In the DNC platform, our party clearly states that we do not believe in dark money and that we need to get dark money out of politics. But what the resolution did was really try to put some consequences in there. So if dark money is used in a Democratic primary, or if it's used by a party committee, what are the consequences on those candidates, party committees, or allied C4s and PACs that the DNC is willing to stand up for? I think that's where the rub is, and we thought we had some consensus, but didn't get it over the finish line this time. We will try again next time. Obviously, a huge shout out to Chair Whitmer in Nevada, who led that resolution, along with Dr. Zogby, who is a longtime DNC member who has pushed for reform inside the DNC longer than any of us, and is a real ally and fighter. I think the important thing to remember is, I look at the work that we're doing inside the DNC, very similar to the work that I did to stop the Keystone XL pipeline. And that is, you have to bring together an unlikely alliance of folks in order to make that change. If I would have stood in a room of farmers, ranchers, tribal members, climate advocates, and told folks the only way you can sit at this table to stop this pipeline is if your primary reason is climate change, I would have lost 75% of the room. You got to meet people where they're at, which sometimes means we're allying and becoming partners with what folks may describe as establishment or conservative or moderate Democrats. But if you believe in change, and if you believe in democratizing the DNC, then we want you on our team. We are going to be pushing some reforms that we're working through a group that we created for DNC members. And I know Joseph and the team are going to put up a slide later on how you can let us know if you want to be part of this. So there's 2 groups that you can engage in. One is for DNC members only. So if you're a DNC member from your state, or you got appointed at the national level to be a DNC member, we're working as a DNC member team to push forward and think through reforms that we want to bring to the national convention. And then Aaron and several other folks are working on a state-based member. So if you're part of your county party or your state party and you're pushing for reform, Aaron and folks have a whole listserv and meetings that they hold to share ideas and best practices. In fact, several folks that just became chair even just this past weekend, Anderson Clayton down in North Carolina is a young Dem running the North Carolina Democratic Party, and is going to bring a lot of reform and a lot of ideas and a lot of energy to that party. So there are certainly changes happening, even though we sometimes get setbacks like the dark money resolution. And so I want to close with really putting something on your radar, which is not going to happen immediately, but you need to be involved now in order to get to this place. So about in November, December, state parties are going to start to roll out what's called their delegate selection plan. That is the rules and the process that each state has, that the DNC has to vet and approve, that decides the process for becoming a delegate at your state party to go to national convention. This is important. Why? Not because there's cool parties at the national convention and you get to see cool speakers. All of that is true. It matters because this is the highest body of decision-making within the Democratic Party. Meaning, if we're going to do real reforms, things like making sure that the committees aren't all appointed by the chair, but rather that they're elected by regional caucus, so they're represented well, that's going to have to come from the DNC convention. It's not going to happen in kind of regular order of business. So we need you to be thinking about how you're going to participate in the delegate selection plan process, which right now that means participating in your county party and your state party, so you're at the table developing relationships and friendships within those institutions so you can run and get elected to go to the national convention and push for reforms. So I'm going to be here every step of the way. I know Aaron on the Our Revolution team is the point person on the kind of party reform, and I'm happy to be here, and I'm sure Joseph has a few questions for me.
So Jane, tell me a little bit about your vision of where the party work will go over time. So we know in 2024, some of this has been written. What about going forward? Like, for example, with the election calendar, do you think that's set in stone?
I don't think the election calendar is set in stone. In fact, I think it's pretty much conventional wisdom at this point, unless you're living under a rock, that President Joe Biden is going to be running again for president. And I think as a progressive and somebody who likes reforms, we've been really proud of what President Biden has done. Obviously, I was proud, for example, when he rejected the Keystone XL pipeline. Lots of room to grow and I know Representative Jayapal talked about some of those bills and movement issues that we want to still move forward. Lots of work still to do. So a lot of folks believe that this calendar was set because President Joe Biden obviously won in South Carolina, and he was proud of that the African-American voters really had his back. But it also really makes sure that not only each region, but more diverse bodies within the early states are represented. There's definitely discussion already happening within DNC members, state chairs and state vice chairs and executive directors of state parties on what a 2028 calendar might look like. And the reality is a lot of that business and a lot of that decision making, when you have a Democrat in the White House, usually does come from the White House. But we know in 2028 leading up to that, so in 27, there's going to be a lot of decisions that are made within the DNC, which is why it's so critical, these state party elections where you're electing DNC committee people and your state chair and vice chair who are all automatic DNC members, that they believe in reform, because those decisions are really going to be coming from the body.
So Jane, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know you were on the road going from meeting to meeting all day. So thanks for taking a moment to join us. And as you heard our sister, she did a call to action. Join our party transformation team. We've got folks all around the country that we want to get involved. If you are already involved in your local Democratic Party, sign up and we're going to coordinate our work. And if you're interested in getting involved and going to the DNC and joining Jane in our work there, sign up. Lots of hearts. I see, Jane. Thank you for again to our members, please sign up, get involved. So with that, I want to turn it over to our political director, Aaron Chappell. Not only are we building progressive power blocks at the federal level within the Democratic Party, we're also building progressive power blocks at the city level. And here to tell us about that is Aaron Chappell.
Thank you, Joseph. And thanks a lot, Jane. Great to hear from you here tonight. So you may not have heard, but St. Louis, Missouri is a really exciting place for progressive organizing right now. From the election of Cori Bush in 2020, Mayor Tishaura Jones, and a narrow progressive majority that won on the Board of Aldermen in 2021, to last year's election of one of those aldermen, Megan Green, as the president of the Board of Aldermen, who controls that body's agenda just at the end of last year, with a support from some of you here on this call, I'm sure. Progressives have been building power in St. Louis, and we see the results immediately. As soon as Green took office last November, completing that sort of progressive trifecta in city government. The city passed a trial universal basic income. Just this week, I saw the council's pushing for legal representation for tenants facing eviction. Lots of good stuff happening there. Now that whole Board of Aldermen is up for grabs again in newly redrawn and shrunken districts. Elections start with a primary next month, in just a few weeks, actually, beginning of March. I'm excited to announce tonight, we're endorsing a slate of great progressives to make sure we hold that progressive majority, from re-electing Megan Green as the president of that board, 10 individuals running in ward races, including our next guest, Alicia Sanye, running in Ward 7. Alicia, welcome to our call. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I am so excited. So excited. Such a pleasure to be here tonight. So glad that you guys are talking about this work across the board, including on the local level.
So tell us a little bit about what's at stake in this election and what it would mean to get you in as the next Alderwoman for Ward 7.
Yes, absolutely. So, I'm Alicia Sanye. As said, I serve on the Board of Education for the city of St. Louis. And so in our city, every public school is one district, and we have about 18,000 kids, 62 schools, and there's a board of 7 that governs over that. And so I get the privilege of serving there. But I started as an organizer after the murder of Michael Brown. So I was 18 at that time. I'm 27 now, and I've really gotten to see our city. I tell it as a tale of two cities. And so I think that we saw that death happen, and then I became a community organizer, very heavily involved, because he was supposed to be in my class, and it just opened up my eyes to so much. And then turned 25 and ran for the Board of Education, which was very uncommon because usually people on that board are double my age. They have children. They are educational experts. Don't fit any of those boxes. But I did that. And then I also served on the board of Pro-Choice Missouri. And I had the pleasure of being Megan's political director for her president board of alderman race. And now I'm running to be alderwoman of the 7th Ward. So I'm giving all of that context so that you can walk through this journey in this story that starts with the death of a Black man or a Black young man left in the street for 4.5 hours, not even a decade ago, to now some of our city's highest seats, from your congressperson to your mayor to the head of the legislative board, being held by people who align with the people-centered agenda. And someone like me, who comes from this background, who would have told you you'll never have a chance at any political career, anything in that level, and honestly wouldn't have wanted it at that time. And so to be there. So when we're talking about what is at risk with this next board of alderman race, to give a little context, Megan's race was not planned. It came up because we had some federal indictments of our president, board of aldermen, and 2 other alders. So to give you some context, where I serve on the Board of Education, 20% of our children are unhoused. As a city, we saw bills not that long ago where alders' response to the unhoused was to ban encampments, where they were trying to pass $500 fines to people who wanted to feed the homeless, where we have long drawn out conversations about the need for financial literacy when we want to give people direct cash payments, but we just signed the dotted line when a big developer asks for a multi-million-dollar incentive and provides no public good. So what is on the line for our city is literally do or death. And that's in 2 ways, because there are many of my peers who don't make it to 18. It's a luxury. There's not a week that I'm not getting an email or someone is not making it. There are people who are dying in the cold and dying in the sun because of a lack of options for unhoused. In the 7th Ward that I'm running in, if you want a 3 or a 4 bedroom home, you better be able to have the ability to finance $150,000 and up for a house. So we're talking about housing and healthcare and our approach to the unhoused. And also, we're in Missouri where, we don't have laws that ban triggers from being pulled in classes, but we do have trigger laws for abortion. And so when you're talking about what's on the line here, all of these things are on the line. And I think that our city is starting to see, we may not have the best allies at the state level, and that makes the leadership at the local level even more important.
Yeah.
Also, sorry, my pronouns are she, her, just so I can... I think that's important as well.
No, thank you. And thanks for that story. It's really helpful to understand the context. Obviously, that tragedy and the protests in Ferguson afterwards were clearly such a seminal moment for politics in the area, in the metropolitan area. And, I guess congratulations to so many leaders like yourself for trying to build something out of that tragedy, right? Now, what I mentioned at the top a lot of exciting policies we're starting to see out of the St. Louis city government. What do you have in mind? What's in store when we get you elected to the board?
So food and policy are my love languages. So I love these questions because I love to eat and I love to cause transformative change via policy. So I love that. And also a lot of the agenda that's being executed right now. As a Board of Pro-Choice Missouri member and a political director for Megan, I was literally the policy think tank with her behind the scenes writing these things up. Some of the things that I'm most excited about, also, yes, for the race, I'm just seeing the chat a little bit. We have a primary March 7th. There's 3 people on my ballot. And so the top 2 of us from March 7th will go on to face off on April 4th.
And let me just say there, sign up to Phone Bank. We're going to be making calls for Alicia and other candidates on the ballot starting Wednesday night. So sorry to cut you off there, but
no, we want that out there. We want that out there. And I'm going to make sure I leave everything else that you all need. But some of the things that I want to see and that I hope, when we're talking about what cities should be looking at in St. Louis City, especially coming from the board of education, one of the things that I see in our city, our city has the most transient population of students in our state. So whether they're unhoused officially or whether they're moving 9 times in one school year and a school year is 9 months, and people always just kind of look at the school to be the catch-all. And so as Alderwoman, I want us to, have systematic accountability. And in the city, the largest landowners in our city are nonprofit, non-tax entities. So a St. Louis University, a Washington University, there's a healthcare system of SSM, there's a healthcare system of BJC. They're the biggest, some of the largest employers in the city, but also all of the land that they own is nonprofit, so no taxes are paid, and 60% of the property taxes goes to the school district and also comes to the city. So something that I really would love us to see, it is great when these organizations and these institutions, when they give their turkeys out on Thanksgiving and we see communities lined up, that's excellent. I would love to see what our city looks like when everybody pays their fair share. I do a lot of work in my community. I have all of my adulthood since 18, and I still have to pay my taxes. So when you ask someone like me, what would I like to see? I want us to have the same ear of accountability that we tend to have for people of color, for people who are lower income. I want to see us have that for the people with the power and the money. And I'm not asking for anything extreme. I just want you to pay your fair share. So that is one thing that I would love to see. The other thing that I would love to see, obviously, Michael Brown is, honestly, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be in front of you now or doing any of the things that I've dared to do up until this point. And even though our city has seen a lot of progress, we do have people in jail right now who can't, the thing between them and their freedom is what they can pay to get out of jail. And so I think that it is time that the Board of Aldermen and all of these elected officials that I think are fairly aligned, we need to make a call to end cash bail. Just plain and simple, we need to end cash bail. Poverty should not be a jail sentence. The thing that stands between anybody and their freedom should not be whether or not they can afford it. So those are, 2 of the things that I would love to see. And I'm a policy wonk, so we could go all day, but those are some of the biggest things that I think are dire and that we have the power to do. That's the other thing. A lot of times people in our cities, as we're building this political movement, they don't even know what their local leadership is capable of, because so often, we fall to the wayside and we're very meek and shy about our asks, but we've got to advocate for our people and for our constituents and for our residents and for our city like it's do or die. And we've got to really think about what is missing, where are the gaps, and get away from looking at criminalizing poverty and what we can do to eradicate it.
Well, that is an agenda we can get behind. Like I said, we will be phone banking for you and other candidates on this slate starting just this Wednesday. And I just totally want to second what you said. The importance of local power cannot be overstated, right? This is the level of government close to the people. We spend a lot of time thinking about who's the president, when actually day to day, a lot of the things that most impact your life are decided at at the city level, at local government levels. So important that we win elections like this. And so great to have you here with us tonight. Thanks again. We know we've got elections happening in big cities. This is not an off year. There's elections, more things on the ballot this year than last year, actually, even a few key states, but big cities all over the country. And I invite everybody on this call to join our Elect Progressives team if you want to get involved in St. Louis and other cities around. We'll drop that link in the chat along with the sign up for the phone bank.
And don't forget to, I wouldn't be a good public servant or office candidate if I didn't ask you for a donation. These things don't fund themselves. everybody is not on board with our agenda. There are definitely folks who want to fight back, who have other resources. But one thing that I know as, you know, a 27-year-old Black woman able to be in our position is the power of the people never fails. So I hope you'll also think about donating and contributing so that we can pay our canvassers $19 an hour, so that we can have the multilingual literature that our community deserves, so that everyone can access us, and ultimately so that we can get this people-centered board that shows a national model of what progressive leadership can look like.
Well, there you have it, folks. Thanks again so much, Alicia. And now I've got to turn it over to our Revolution Field Director, Mike Olis, to speak with our next guest. Mike.
Hey, Aaron, thanks a lot. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Great. Okay, I'm having a little bit of internet difficulties tonight, but hey, Aaron, hey, we just talking about electing progressives, and we're gonna do that in St. Louis. But in San Francisco, back in November, we elected Aleta Fisher to the school board in San Francisco after some tough fights, and we took a progressive majority on the school board. As an organizer, I like to think that, you know, we are that our revolution is a community of communities, right? In our communities across the country, we're organizing together, and that we're also a community of community organizers. And so that is why I'm so excited tonight that we are going to announce a new group that had just launched, the San Francisco Education Alliance, powered by Our Revolution and by some amazing organizers in San Francisco who never gave up, who never stopped when the millionaires and the billionaires and the Republicans came after public education in San Francisco. This group stood strong, took a couple punches, and in November came back and took both the City College Board and the school board. So cannot wait to hear more about this group. So I want to introduce now Eddie Brovman, and Jessica Nguyen, who are doing some amazing organizing in San Francisco. And so congratulations, Allison and Jess, on this new group, the San Francisco Education Alliance.
Well, thanks, Mike. That was so great to hear from Alicia. She's doing, sounds like really exciting work there in St. Louis, and we will be following along with her campaign as well. And, you know, as you mentioned, we all know that public education across this country is going through a lot of really big fights, and San Francisco has definitely not been immune from that. So we formed the San Francisco Education Alliance, and there's about half of our organizing team is on the call tonight. So thanks to all of you for being here. But we are set to organize families, students, and workers across our public schools and our local community college to fight against privatization efforts like charter schools and campus closures. We want to keep our education spaces safe for Black, Latinx, Pacific Islander, Asian, and Indigenous students, and for LGBTQ students. In fact, some of our organizing team are working right now on a citywide resolution to protect trans and queer youth. And we are going to be unapologetically progressive about our fight. As our mission statement says, we are proudly left-leaning, anti-racist, anti-fascist, anti-carceral, and pro-union. And because we are part of Our Revolution, we have a 4-point plan to win, which is we demand a fully funded public education system. We will fight for progressive policies and against school privatization. We will educate, engage, and mobilize the community, and we will hold elected officials accountable. And as Mike mentioned, in November, we had some strong wins at the local ballot. Our Revolution endorsed school board candidate, Aleta Fisher, who you're going to hear from in a moment. She won at our school board. And we had a very pro-union slate win at our City College Board of Trustees. Jess Nguyen, who is a student organizer and a member of our organizing team, was really instrumental in that win at City College. And I'm going to let Jess tell you more about what's at stake at City College, our community college, and how you can get involved with the San Francisco Education Alliance. So Jess, it's over to you.
Thanks, Allison. Hi, everyone. My name is Jess. I am a student at City College of San Francisco, and City College has changed my life. It is a wonderful education institution that allows people to transfer, change careers, have vocational training, ESL classes, everything from learning to weld and become a journeyman to becoming a culinary arts professional for one of our hospitality industry. There's so many amazing things at City College, and it's a shame to see so many cuts in the last semester and the last few years. As a student, I saw that there were longstanding trustees that did not vote in favor of student interest, and there was no accountability. So students got involved, starting to go to a lot of trustee meetings, and then also digitally organizing, making sure that we share all the resources in our community and create things like reels and posts to let people know that they should know what's happening at the higher levels and that their vote is very, very important. The great thing about organizing for the last few years is we built a coalition of a lot of young people and a lot of City College fans and retirees that have been coming out to making sure that our candidates that are for progressive action are being elected. The most exciting thing about the SF Public Education Alliance is we're bringing all the fans of public education, whether you support San Francisco Unified School District or City College of San Francisco, we're trying to get together and make sure that public education works for all of us. The best honor of my lifetime was actually getting to swear in now our Vice President of Board of Trustees, Anita Martinez, and to know that it was the people's movement. It was a students' movement. It was the retirees' movement. It was all the unions that were supporting public education and making sure that we can unseat long-term standing trustees who cared more about tweeting about themselves and public promotion than our education. So if you're out there, please join our group, donate if you can, join our social media, learn about all the amazing things that we're doing to fight for public education. And I would love to next hand it off to Alita Fisher, who's incredible. I voted for you, Alita. I definitely shared it on all our social media. We would love to hear about your first month on the school board. What has it been like? And what is your hope for change? And why do you think a group like SF Education Alliance is so important?
Well, thank you all. I'm honored to be here. First of all, it's emotional to sit here and listen to all the speakers who have gone before me. And I have to say, listening to current board commissioner Sonye, future alderperson Sonye, let's put it out there, right? Just listening to her talk about the importance of local leadership, how we've criminalized poverty in our society, and how the power of people never fails. One of my guiding quotes in everything I've done in my parent advocacy, my special education advocacy over the past few years has been from Margaret Mead. And it's never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And when I think of that quote, I think of our revolution. And I think of the grassroots activism and the people power. And that's what got me into office. And that is what drives me in the work I do every day. We're at an inflection point here in San Francisco in our school board. And I'm honored to be serving with the commissioners that are on the board now, following in their footsteps, learning about the governance work they've done. We can't be everything to everyone, but we are a public school district. We need to ensure that we are looking out for our most marginalized students. We need to make sure that the students who need the most supports and services are the ones that are getting them, not the families that are able to show up at the board meetings and spend 2 minutes at that podium talking, not the ones that are emailing us every week. Their voices are important too. Everyone's voice is important. But we need to go find the students whose families can't come to the board meeting. We need to make sure that we're addressing our chronic absenteeism crisis. We heard from our Matua PAC. At our board meeting 2 meetings ago. That's our Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander PAC. They pointed out that in the Pacific Islander community, we have 69% absenteeism right now. So when we talk about what we need to do from an equity standpoint and what we need to do to be unabashedly anti-racist. We need to make sure that our Black and brown students, our BIPOC students, our students receiving special education services, that they are at the front and center of everything we do. We're centering those students, their families in our policies and our procedures, in what we're expecting of staff, and in the resources that we're putting into schools. So that's where I hope to help move the needle and push things forward, and where I look forward to the support of the Ed Alliance in doing it.
That's Alita, that's amazing. Commissioner for San Francisco Board of Education. You know, I just want to say one quick story is that you appeared on our Revolution call where we were going against the billionaire-backed school board recall. And look, we took a licking that night, right? They rigged the system. We lost. You were on the call fighting for what was right. In November, they used footage of you on that call against you, against your campaign, and guess what? It didn't matter. You got elected. You flipped the majority back to being progressive, and so thank you for running for office, being a activist and a voice for justice in San Francisco, and an inspiration to anybody who is going up into a challenging fight. So thank you for that. And any last words tonight from the new Ed Alliance as we wrap up our call and we get ready for some deep organizing and for public schools all across the country, and especially starting in San Francisco.
Yeah, we have one more. Or Allison, would you like to go ahead and share about our in-person event coming up on March 1st?
Sure. We, as excuse me, as Jess mentioned, our sort of in-person launch is going to be held on March 1st at I'm going to fumble this restaurant's name, Bisa Baobab. It's a Senegalese restaurant. We're going to have Anita Martinez from our City College Board of Trustees speaking. But before that, next Tuesday, we are going to try to bring out folks to rally with our educators union in support of their new contract. And you can find out more about both of those events. We're going to drop our link tree in the chat, so you can sign up or follow our socials to stay in touch. And thanks so much to our Revolution for giving us the time tonight.
Great, and thank you, Commissioner Fisher and Jess and Allison. And look, I think tonight's lesson is, the right wing is trying to take over school boards across the country. The progressives got to do the same, right? Fight for our schools and to, make sure our schools are great, and then move on to the next office. So cannot wait to keep working with everybody, and thank you for everybody. And so let's go ahead and wrap this call up. We're about a minute late tonight, but that's no big deal, because when we organize, we win some pretty amazing things. So just to wrap things up, just want to review a couple upcoming events. Tomorrow, again, if you're out there in a city where we're doing Valentine's Day actions with One Fair Wage, please join us. Please become a member of our Revolution. Most importantly, we are a grassroots funded organization. We are a group, right, that's out there, probably unlike any other group in the country, funded by small donations. Every dollar counts. We have new membership cards that are dropping. Please become a member if you haven't become one yet. It's so important that we become a group that's funded by thousands and thousands of small donations. That's how we win this thing. And we've done it for 7 years now, not 7 years, 6 years now. And we're going to keep on doing it. So but please become a member of our Revolution tonight. Every dollar counts. Whatever you can give counts, especially if you can make it a monthly donation. So thank you again to all of our members out there. We have an amazing group of members and activists. So let's go on and talk about our teams. Join the federal action team. You heard Pramila Jayapal tonight. The need to, in this Congress for the president to take action. Please join our federal action team, the FAT, so that we can go out and get federal action done. If we can't get through Congress, we can get done through executive order. And let's go to my team, the what do you call the RWT, the Raise the Wage team. This is a team that's been meeting on Thursday nights. We are in the fight for lives, teaming up with One Fair Wage for some amazing work across the country. Join the Raise the Wage team. We're meeting on Thursday nights, kind of a smaller meeting where we get to know each other, get to organize together, have some fun, and plan how we can organize the country and organize in our communities to increase the minimum wage and to end the sub-minimum wage. So join the Raise the Wage team. And a couple more teams coming up. The TPT, the Transform the Party team. This work we heard from Jane Klebb tonight. Join the Transform the Party team. We have so many party leaders, grassroots party activists, DNC members as part of our movement. Join this team, the Transform the Party team. It is a place to be as we organize at the precinct, at the local, at the state, at the county level, at the DNC level. Join the Transform the Party team. And then lastly, join the elect progressives team. We have phone banking to do. We'll be phone banking every night. We have elections, local elections coming up. We're going to win big at the local level. And next year, come back and win big and take back Congress, increase our majority in the Senate, and hopefully elect the most progressive president we can in 2024. So join the elect progressives team. And then one last request. If you know our revolution, we've been hot and heavy fighting Kyrsten Sinema. She has an opponent now officially for the 2024 Arizona Senate race. Join the Stop Sinema Fund. I spent weeks and months in Arizona last year trying to hold her accountable. The movement did a great job. Now we just got to beat her out at the election box. So join the Stop Sinema Fund. Help fund our work to get rid of folks like Sinema and replace them with Sinema and Manchin and replace them with true progressives. So that's going to wrap us up. And I jumped ahead of tomorrow morning, actually, here in just, in a few hours. Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day to everybody. We have these Valentine's Days events coming up tomorrow in Chicago, in Sacramento, in Denver, in New York, in Baltimore. So if you're in one of those cities, join us tomorrow. We have a chance to do some amazing work, take on one of the worst organizations in the country, the other NRA, the National Restaurant Association, and a chance to get real worker justice in our restaurants. The restaurants are about 10% of our economy and our workforce. Imagine what we can do if we transform our food and restaurant industry. So that's our work. That's what we're doing. And so let's wrap it up. If you're online with us, we have a lot of folks online with us tonight. Let's wrap it up. Our next call is coming up. Here very short here in 2 weeks. We meet every 2 weeks online, the second and fourth Monday of the month at this point. Our Monday night organized the win call, next call 2 weeks from tonight. And I'm just speeding through here. Read the Revolution Report, read our newsletter, and let's go to our final slide of the night. This is everybody's favorite slide. It's my kid's favorite slide when we do it. So let's train it together. Unmute yourself if you can. If you're at home by yourself, just unmute yourself and yell out loud. When we organize,
we
win.
win.
We win. From San Francisco to Washington, D.C. When we organize,
we win.
Awesome. Okay. We'll talk to everybody very soon. Happy Valentine's Day. Let's fight for one fair wage and a progressive America. Thank you so much.